In 1990, every NFL team passed on John Randle.
Mike, you can't handle me, boy! Each and every one of them put me in.
The draft had 12 rounds that year, 334 players selected. John Randle, not one of them. Today, he's in the Hall of Fame with more sacks than any defensive tackle in history. John wasn't getting calls from Alabama, USC, or Ohio State. He was a 3-star recruit from a town most people had never heard of. No major D1 offers came. 0. Actually, John almost didn't play his senior year at all. He quit the football team because he was hitching rides 11 miles each way to practice and back to Mumford. It was too exhausting. His mother told him straight up, "If you don't play ball, I'm coming to Hearn with my belt, and I'm whooping you for everybody out there."
The guy who picks it up is this man, John Randle, and he hurt his sternum in preseason, and
He went back. That decision changed everything. But even after returning, the big schools weren't interested. So John went to Trinity Valley Community College, not exactly a pipeline to the NFL, but he used it as a stepping stone. From Trinity Valley, John transferred to Texas A&I University in Kingsville. This wasn't a football powerhouse. This was a small Lone Star Conference school where NFL scouts rarely visited. He became a first-team All-American. He was named Lone Star Conference Lineman of the Year twice, back-to-back seasons, where he was the best lineman in his conference. He finished college with 11 sacks and was absolutely destroying offensive lines at his level. John started believing. He watched his older brother Irvin, who had been drafted by Tampa Bay and was starting at linebacker for the Buccaneers. April 1990, the NFL draft. John sat by the phone for 3 days straight. He'd pick it up every few minutes to make sure it was still working. Put it back down, wait, hope. Round 1 passed. Nothing. Round 3, nothing. Round 7, still nothing. Round 10, silence. Round 12, the final round, nothing. 336 players were selected in that draft. John Randle was not one of them. As he later said, "It made me feel like I was that poor country kid, a person that no one believed in, just that hand-me-down guy." The scouts saw a defensive end who was 6 feet 1 inch, 240 pounds, too small for the NFL. They didn't know where he'd fit. Undersized, questionable speed, small school guy. All the red flags were there on paper. The draft was over, but John Randle's story was just beginning. John's brother Irvin got him a tryout with Tampa Bay, but the Buccaneers wanted to move him from defensive end to linebacker. Irvin warned John, "You got about 6 weeks to perfect your traits. If they move you to linebacker, it's not enough time to learn it. You're not going to be that good, and they're going to cut you." John refused to switch. Tampa cut him. Next was Atlanta with Jerry Glanville's Falcons. Same story, cut. Then came the Minnesota Vikings. They had the smallest defensive line in football, and even they thought John was too small. But defensive coordinator Floyd Peters gave him a shot with one condition: come back in about a month. "Can you give me 250 pounds? I'll give you a shot." John came back at 244, 245 pounds. Close, but not quite, so he improvised. He went to a hardware store, bought a chain that weighed about 10 pounds and a padlock. The next morning at the Vikings facility, he wrapped that chain around his waist under his sweatpants and stepped on the scale. 251 pounds. Floyd Peters looked at him with a cigarette in his mouth. "I don't believe it, but the scale says 250. That's fine." Number 93 was officially a Minnesota Viking. For John's first 2 years in Minnesota, he was essentially invisible. A backup defensive end, a special teams guy. Nothing special. Nobody was calling him a future star. The coaches didn't trust young players back then, so John kept his head down and earned his spot the hard way, covering kicks, making tackles on punt returns. Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders.
It's confidence.
One of the best return men in the NFL, got shut down by number 93 multiple times. John played occasionally on third downs when they needed an interior rusher, but he was still a role player. His teammates called him Little Muscle because he was this undersized guy with a motor that never quit. Then 1992 happened. New head coach Denny Green made a decision that seemed absolutely insane. Denny Green called John into his office. "We just traded Keith Millard to Seattle. We're moving you to defensive tackle." John was already considered too small for defensive end at 6 feet 1 inch, 245 pounds. Now they wanted him to line up against 300-pound offensive guards, head-to-head, every single play. John Turlink, the defensive line coach, almost fainted when he heard the plan. But John walked up to Turlink and said something that changed both their careers. "I want to be a really good player. Will you help me become a really good player?" Turlink later said, "You could have knocked me over with a feather." So they went to work. Turlink taught John that, as a defensive tackle, everything was quicker. That first step, that second step, you had to explode. You couldn't waste any movement. Technique had to be perfect. And John had the perfect practice partner, Randle McDaniel, the Vikings All-Pro offensive guard and future Hall of Famer. For 2 years, Randle McDaniel dominated John in practice. He'd just grab him and laugh. John couldn't beat him, but John kept coming every single day. Metal sharpens metal. It took 2 years until John could consistently beat Randle McDaniel in practice. And once he did, he had arrived. In 1993, John Randle made his first Pro Bowl. The breakthrough had happened. The legend was about to begin. That first Pro Bowl in 1993 wasn't a fluke. It was the announcement that John Randle had become one of the most dominant interior pass rushers in football. 3 sacks. Being superstitious, John kept doing it. The more face paint, the more sacks. It became his trademark, this wild-looking, undersized defensive tackle with war paint, screaming at offensive linemen. Steve Wisniewski, the Raiders guard, kept stepping on John's shoes. So John looked him dead in the eye and said, "If you do that one more time, I'm coming to Houston, Texas, and catching you at Randall's grocery store, and I'm going to do the same thing to you and your family." Wisniewski froze. "How do you know I live in Houston?" John just grinned. He was in his head now. Game over. From 1993 to 2000, John Randle posted double-digit sacks every single season, 8 consecutive years. Defensive tackles aren't supposed to do that. But John Randle, he was collapsing pockets and hunting quarterbacks like he was a 6 foot 5 inch edge rusher, not a 6 foot 1 inch interior guy. The consistency was unreal. Year after year, offensive coordinators schemed specifically to stop number 93. And year after year, he still got double digits. Then came 1997, John Randle's masterpiece season, 15.5 sacks. That number alone is impressive for any pass rusher. A 6 foot 1 inch defensive tackle from Mumford, Texas, was the most feared pass rusher in football. Bruce Smith, Reggie White, Kevin Green, all the big-name edge rushers. John Randle beat them all. He would tell offensive linemen, "I can smell you, Stevie." He'd recite the Gettysburg Address to confuse them. He'd ask if they wanted to go fishing together, anything to get in their heads. Trent Dilfer once jumped on John at the bottom of a pile with an elbow. John screamed to the referee, got the flag thrown, and Trent ejected. Then John looked at his teammates. "Got him, baby. Got him." The accolades pile up. 7 Pro Bowl selections, 6 consecutive first-team All-Pro selections, 1993 to 1998, 6 straight years as the best at his position. Named to the NFL 1990s All-Decade Team. 137.5 career sacks, the most by a defensive tackle in NFL history. 29 forced fumbles, 556 total tackles. After Minnesota, John signed with Seattle, where Mike Holmgren told him, "If you had been playing for me, I would have never cut you." In Seattle, John became a player coach, mentoring younger guys while still getting after quarterbacks, showing them how to prepare, how to practice, how to play with that relentless motor. When it was all over, John Randle had cemented himself as the greatest pass-rushing defensive tackle in NFL history. August 7, 2010, Canton, Ohio. John Randle walked onto that stage and was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the 3-star recruit with no major offers. He stood there in a gold jacket. In his speech, John said, "It shows every kid out there who wants to play in the National Football League that it doesn't matter where you come from. You don't have to be from a big city. You don't have to be from some big star program. You don't have to be from a big school. It just takes heart, desire, and some sacrifices." He finished his career with 7 Pro Bowls, 6 All-Pro selections, and a bust in Canton. Not bad for a kid who almost quit football his senior year of high school. Subscribe to Kicker Throne right now. Drop a comment and tell me what Underdog NFL story you want to hear next. John Randle is proof that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. It's what you do with the opportunity. When it finally comes, see you in the next one.
Audubon.
John Randle, back-to-back sensational plays from that tackle spot.